welcome to the lazyfluency podcast, where we have casual conversations switching between English and Japanese so that you can learn from and with us along the way. I'm Joey.
And Miami.
And the topic of the day is gender equality. But before we get into that, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and drop a review on whatever platform you're listening on. We appreciate the support. And with that out of the way, gender equality. A person or commenter named Oddity actually is the inspiration for this episode, and we will read part of her comment and then move into this topic. So, this was the part of her topic or comment that she wrote. How are men jerks in daily life in Japan, if they are? I recently found the trending word kutu. It's a pun of kutsu and kutsu, meaning like pain, and me too, and it refers to a movement that rose against the requirement for women to wear high heels in the workplace. The issue got hot enough to warrant a parliamentary committee, but that apparently ended on a flat note that can be paraphrased as, well, it's a bummer that women are suffering, but we men like how it looks, so they should keep doing it. Then I found that in 2018 there was a huge scandal involving the Tokyo Medical University, in which it was uncovered that it, along with many other universities, had been systematically changing the entry exam grades of female applicants to lower the number of women accepted. Rejected women sued and won, and as a result of 2022, marks the first year in which women outperform men in medical exams. Okay, but this was before IME's big exam, and I don't know, I thought it might be possibly upsetting to her, so I figured I'd wait. I'm interested to hear your take on it, especially IME's. Also, as someone who lives in a contentious place, I know firsthand how local news can be warped in international media, so I wanted to find local sources about it all, but my Japanese is not there, so that's why I have you, though. Thank you for the comment, and yeah, that's the inspiration of this episode.
はい、オリティさんいつもありがとうございます。素晴らしい。はい。
Yeah, and so we broke down, I guess what you call, instead of saying how men are jerks, which we will address that sort of in a different section later on, but the focus is basically how is it like to be a woman in Japan, and we have kind of a bunch of different sections that we're talking about. So school, I have gyms, transport, socially expected behavior, work, and societal role as you age. Is there any one of these that you want to talk, like the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of what is it like being a woman in Japan?
まず最初にさ、オリティが、最初、質問で言ってたさ、東京メディカルユニバーシティ、事件あったじゃん。
Yeah.
あれは、私の受験した年がちょうど、問題があった年の次の、入試で、入試の、そういう不平等なやつがもうなくなった初めての年だから、もう直撃した年なのね。で、面白いことに、私は推薦入試っていうので、なんていうかわかんない。推薦入試。
Recommended accepted student, or like recommended acceptance, sort of?
なんかな、わかんないな。推薦入試っていうのが、普通の入試とはまた別であるんだけど、その推薦入試をこの、東京メディカルユニバーシティに、アプライしたのね。で、落ちちゃったんだけど、で、その後に、今の、行ってる大学と、他の大学も受けた感じで、で、面白いことに、私の大学は、今までは、男の人の方が女の人よりも人数が割と多くて、男対女っていうのが、7対3とか、6対4とかね、っていうのがあって、で、プラスで、浪人生が少ない傾向にあったの。浪人生は how do you say?
They're students that have to... Are you talking about students that take an extra gap year to enter?
そう。
Yeah. So, yeah, in Japan, it's common to fail for the first time when you apply. I think as well in many countries. And so they call them ronin, or like almost like vagrants or vagabond.
そうで、その浪人の時代に、行きたい学校に向けて、勉強したりね、あと、塾に行って、次の年に受かるようにするのを、浪人するって言うんだけど、何年も浪人してる人を、あんまり受け入れてなかったんだよ。3浪とか4浪とか5浪の人とかあんまりいなくて、で、だけど私の年から、なぜかわからないけど、女子の方が、ちょっと多いぐらいなのかな。それからだいたい半分ぐらいで。で、しかも、5浪の人とかね、結構同じ学年にいたりとかして、変わったよね。
Do you know how they, when I heard about this incident, I heard that there was a bias towards men because but I'm not sure how they actually accounted for that bias, if they had a quota for men. And I also heard that the reason they said this is because they said, well, women are going to get pregnant. But then if you believe that, then why are you accepting any women in the first place? So it seemed weird to maintain a slant. I'm not sure if you know exactly what any of the specifics of this and how they corrected that. Japan actually tends to use quotas quite a lot. So instead of saying like, what was it? We talked about it. It was a previous episode that, what was it? We were talking about people in the parliament in Japan and how now it's like 30% something plus women. And it's always been extremely like male dominated. We believe we talked about it in a previous episode, but it's because they're putting in like actual quotas. So they have to have a certain amount in a party of women.
内閣?
Yeah, exactly. The cabinet. Yeah. I'm saying I don't know what they did to address the issue. And do you have any clue?
何がその
how they address the issue for the imbalance of like accepted med school students?
なんでその女の人を女の人を取りたくないか。
Yeah, exactly.
初めにさっきも言ったようにね、女の人は結婚したり出産したりとか、その医者を休む時間が男の人に比べたら多いじゃん。ね、それはしょうがないじゃん。だって妊娠したり出産するのって1年ね、2年とかねかかっちゃうから、それはしょうがないし、結婚したらその子育てするのはなんか女の人っていうもう日本のそういうカルチャーなのかな。今はだんだん変わってきてはいるとは思うけど、なんていうの、ステレオタイプ的には女の人が家のことをやるっていうのが典型例だから。
I'm asking, do you know how they solved it? Did they put a quota to get more women, or did they? Because they had to reverse the discrimination somehow, and they did, right?
No, this あれじゃない。今までなんていうの、点数的には女の人の方が点数が高い人が多かったけど、just カットしてた。
Okay, so they just stopped the discrimination and then naturally balanced out that there were more women. Okay, yeah, I mean that's the case with the U.S. colleges now, where more women are going for higher education for many reasons than men are. Yeah, I mean that's a whole other topic of conversation. We might get into like the third section, but yeah, that was one, I guess, thing that you're addressing. But in general, let's go to some of the other topics about. We're actually just. While we're addressing your comment, did you ever hear about the mitsu, or what's it called? Kutsu? Or I'm assuming is what it is. Yeah.
靴と靴って shoes ね。で、靴はsuffering.
Yeah.
で、
Q2.
Yeah. これ聞いたことはないけど、Me Too は聞いたことあるかな。
I mean, I didn't hear about this hashtag, but I definitely heard about this incident where people were wearing high heels and women are forced to wear high heels. I thought that there was like what was it? The conclusion was that you're allowed to wear flatter high heels or something. Like there were high heels that were very you call it like narrow point.
ピンヒールっていうの多分それ。
Yeah, and I think, at least from what I remember, I mean, maybe the conclusion was, as you're stating, where they didn't do anything. But I believe they at least said like, well, it's okay because you can wear these very wide flat heels that still count as heels.
ヒールは履かなくちゃ、職場によると思うけど、だいたいね、女の人はヒール履いてるイメージはある。
So nothing changed about that, you don't think?
多分、私はまだね、社会に出てるわけじゃないからわからないけど。
Yeah. And then we talked about previous episode, the ponytail incident, where like women were in schools, or was it in some elementary schools or middle schools, or maybe even high schools, weren't allowed to have ponytails because it enticed men too much.
これね、ここに髪型に関しては男の人も厳しいとは思う。なんでかっていうと、男の人はなんか前髪が眉毛にかかっちゃいけないとか、ロン毛はダメとか結構あるんだよ。
No, but I'm when you're talking about like gender imbalance, I think you're talking about the reason being important. So in the case for ponytails, they're saying men can't control themselves, so women need to change their hair. Right? That's what the ponytail was. The ponytail wasn't just about them having a hairstyle. They were literally their reason was like it's too enticing to men, basically.
これ 私の学校はポニーテール全然 OK だったよ。だから、まあ、学校によるし、あと、それが、the only reason、唯一のリーズンじゃないから、まあ、それは、わからん。
Yeah. But, I mean, do you have any other, I mean, I have some here. Do any of these situations or something that comes up to you where you're like, there's definitely a gender divide when it comes to this thing?
これはね、トランスポートでね、トレイン、電車で女性専用車っていうかな、あるのね。
Yeah, so women only trains.
そうそう。これっていうのは、まあ、通勤とかね、仕事、朝だけなのかな。多分、夕方、仕事から帰ってくる時間も、女性しか乗れない、車両があってね。そこは、男性入っちゃいけないんだけどもちろん。
Yeah.
で、その理由としては多分痴漢とかが多いから、男性は入っちゃいけないのね。
Yeah.
でもこれからすると、なんかどっかで見たんだけど、なんだろう、法律じゃないから別にルールは守んなくていいんじゃないかっていう、なんか、訴えをしてた、なんか、おじさんがいて、無理やり女性専用車に入ろうとして、なんか問題になったみたいな。
I mean, what was the other thing we talked about literally last episode about, it had to do with something that was only, hotels. About how some hotels are only for men.
そうね。
Is that not legal then? Because I had a feeling like that seemed, in America, as far as I know, I think that would be illegal. I'm not sure.
それは法律で決まってるんじゃなくて、ただそのホテルがルールを決めてるだけだから別に守る必要はないんだけど。
So if I went to a hotel and I said, no, I'm staying, like at the, like to one of the hotels, I was like, no, it's women only or something.
でも最終的に決める、その人がステイできるかを決めるのはそのホテルだから、そのホテルの人がダメって言ったら you can't stay だからさ。
Oh, no, my point is in America, if, for example, I don't know, I'm pretty sure this also applies to sexes, except for insurance companies, which get a pass. But I think if a hotel said, let's talk about like sexual preferences. If they said like, if like I'm gay or whatever, and they figured out, and then they're like, you can't stay because you're gay, then you could actually sue the establishment.
And I'm saying, それは差別だから。
Yeah, like legally you can sue them. And I'm saying I wonder if you can do that for the like 女性用 and like 男性用. Although I don't really know. I know some about Japanese legal system, but as far as I know, I mean, I don't have much trust in following the law when following the law would conflict with culture. I don't know. Maybe you could actually, this one, right? This the whole system of getting women to actually get accepted in the med school. So maybe, but then maybe that's like more progressive. So I wonder if you could do the reverse where you go inside like an old man. I could see it. You're like, the trains are super busy and packed. I just want some free space. I'm 75. That I didn't want to get crushed. Why am I not allowed to go inside this train?
そう、なんか女性、まあ、多分女性専用車の方が女性しかいないから、まあ空いてる、まあそれでも混んでんだけどね。で、なのになんで女性ばっかどうだろうこうだらっていうのが、まあ彼らの訴えなんだから、そうそう。
Oh yeah, you said that happened, but he wasn't suing anybody. This was just.
なんだっけな、訴訟起こしたんかな、まあ、忘れたけど、なんかそういう問題はあったよ。なんか見たことある。
What about let's say I have socially expected behavior, or maybe one here that you might have seen, but I don't know if you've seen person, which is like pouring tea, or like where women are expected like, or have in traditional Japanese or some companies expected like pour tea for people.
はいはいはい。まあ、そういうのって多分なんだ受付の人初期わかんないけど。がやるんだよね、そういうね。なんていうのお茶運びとか。
But is there anything from your like, personal experience that you're like, this specifically, I only have to do this because I'm a woman?
いやー、そういう場面には、立ち会ったことはないからわからないけど、よくドラマとかで見るのは。
I mean, you don't have anything from your own personal like high school or no, I guess you went to a women's high school, right?
違う。共学、both.
Okay. Was it women's? Didn't you go to a women's only something?
No, that's my friend.
Oh, okay. Okay, so seriously? Okay, so you didn't, nothing like, let's go to, I mean, dress code, we talked about, right?
なんだ制服の
Yeah, having to wear, like, dresses and stuff. that is dictated by gender, right?
まあそうだね。
Yeah.
ね、スカートの長さはこう膝上はダメとかそれは決まってる。
Are there any other, and obviously like the hairs as well. I have something, so I wrote this down for gyms, which I found was funny, or interesting, I guess. So I went to play volleyball at a Japanese college when I was like studying abroad. And in the US, normally both men and women have like locker rooms, and then you go and dress down in the locker rooms and then come outside. But, and as far as I know, this is normal when I ask other people who were outside this college about their experiences. But men kind of just strip down to their underwear in the middle of on the floor, like of the PE, if that makes any sense. And then women just kind of sit there and watch that, I guess.
まあウォッチはしないけど、見ないようにはするけど。
Yeah, what's up with that? You don't have any thoughts about that? I found that so uncomfortable. And like this is coming from somebody. I'm like for sports, I'm down like very used to stripping completely, but that's like inside a locker room and like showering and stuff. Something felt very weird about stripping in front of the women, but they're not doing the same thing. But you're going down to your underwear. You had no thoughts about that?
確かにね、部活とかの場面で男はロッカールームに行かなくてもう終わったらすぐその場でなんか、ね、着替えるとかあるけど、まあ女の人は更衣室に行って着替えるっていうのがあるから、まあこっちもなんていうの、目の前で逃れても恥ずかしいっていうか、なんかどうすればいいか分かんないから。
Okay, so you actually thought that though?
目をそらすしかないよね。まあ、着替えてんのかなみたいな。で、
Okay, I mean that seems like an example then, because I was uncomfortable. I was wondering if it was just because I was American. I was like, why am I the only one? I was asking some of the people there, and I was like, am I doing something? Like, where did we change? And they're like, oh, right here. I'm like, but like, what about my shorts? And, like, and everybody just started stripping down their underwear, and I was like, yeah, and I'm a little uncomfortable in the situation. Yeah, and yeah, to me it just seemed like this is an obvious one. Like you already mentioned it, like chikan on trains and the joseiyo. Let me see, buses. Is there any sort of etiquette in terms of like, I don't think giving seats or anything. As far as I know.
優先席?
Yeah, but that's for the elderly, right?
優先席はまあ怪我してる人、まあ年寄りの人、まあ妊娠してる人とかね、あと持病を持ってる人とかね、そういう人に優先して座らせてあげるっていう席。Priority seat だっけ?
Yeah, priority seats. Okay. What about things that aren't rules, but you would consider to be expectations? So have you ever had any altercations with somebody or some guy or just generally in a situation where you felt like you were being punished for having characteristics that were not typically feminine? So I have some socially expected behavior here as being cute, submissive, or soft-spoken, which I believe are like desirable traits among Japanese women.
わかった。なんか、はいはい。これね、私が中学、高校の時に、なんか友達がなんかエクスペリエンスしたんだけど、なんか、ある先生に、私の友達が、女子なんだからおとなしくしてなさいみたいな言われたらしいの。Yeah. マジで、なんか makes no sense じゃん。なんか理不尽じゃん。だって、その子は、なんだっけな、多分、教室内を走り回ってたんか分かんないけど、でもそれを見たなんか男の先生なんだけどが、私の友達に女子なんだからなんかそんなことすんなみたいな。意味分かんなくない？なんで座ってないといけないのって感じじゃん。なんで遊んじゃいけないの？女子だと遊んじゃいけないの。
Yeah.
意味分からない。
Did you have any experiences like that with your other classmates though? Like between like within your classmates, them saying like you should do this because you are a woman, or
あとは
or you doing this is not what you should be doing because it's not ladylike or something like that?
ある。例えば、まあよく親とかにも女子なんだからあぐらかいちゃいけない。あぐら。
As in you can't sit cross-legged?
そう。女子なんだから足を開いて。
That's interesting. Can guys sit cross-legged?
そうだよ。あぐらってわかる？
Yeah, yes. It's crisscross applesauce, I think. Like sitting down.
そう。
Yeah.
要するになんか足を広げて座るのは女子らしくないからいけないって。だから女子はなんていうの？足を折りたたんで、なんていうの？今できないけど。正座か、まあ正座を
like
横座りっていう。
Yeah, exactly. Where you put your legs together and you're
そう横に座る。
It's like, yeah.
横座り
yeah, your legs are to the left of your butt, sort of, if that makes sense.
まあね、まあ、ライトでもレフトでもどっちでもいいんだけど。
right, left.
そうそう。
Yeah.
だから、そういう、なんで女子だと足を開いてあぐらかいちゃいけないのって感じじゃん。
Yeah.
理解はできない。
I mean, that's a perfect example.
そう。
And would that be your parents or?
まあ、ペアレンツもそうだし、でも社会全体がそうだね。
What about, so if you did that in a classroom or lunchroom, do you think you'd get called out for it by some dude in the class or something?
まあ言われたことはないけど、言われたとしてもやるけどね。
Okay.
けど、
Mm-hmm.
あんまりなんていうの、uncomfortable には感じると思う、相手は。あ、なんか女子なのにあぐらかいてる、なんかちょっと教育がなってないとか、
Mm-hmm.
っていうのは思われるとは思う。
And what about, so this was from like boys towards women and like parents and teachers towards women. What about between women? So like women have expectations that they assume women should do, and then they impose them on other women, if that makes sense. So for example, they're saying, oh, that girl is acting way too forward or something.
はい。もう、エクスペリエンスしすぎだわ。なんかね、中学高校の時に、なんか私ね、なんだよ。女子と仲良くなるより男子とのが仲良くなりやすいの。まあ、なんていうの、趣味とか、やることが結構男子っぽいからサッカーしたり鬼ごっこしたり、結構アクティブな方だから。で、あんまり女子がすること好きじゃないのね、私は。で、私が男子とばっかり仲良くしてて、結構喋ってたのね。それを、他の女子が私のこと見て、なんか、媚びを売ってるだの、なんだのってめんどくさいんだけど。そう。なんで女の人は男子と仲良くしちゃいけないの？なんかそれは全部、なんていうの？ロマンティックな、なんていうの？リレーションシップを求めてやってるみたいなのを、思われて、なんていうの？思いながら見られてるの。
Yeah.
そう。
So has that caused like any conflict with friends? So let's say you have a friend. How? Let me see. You have a female friend who's attracted to a guy that you're friends with, but like friends with, not friend.
じゃあもうアトラクテッド関係なくて、just in general。
Just in general。
で、なんか女はなんか女子同士と仲良くしてれば何も言われないけど、男子とめっちゃ仲いいとはなんか媚び売ってるだろうなんだろう、そう言われた。そう。
What was this elementary school, middle school, high school?
まあ、言われたのは、ミロとハイスクールなんだけど、私、小学校の時もほぼ男とばっか遊んでたから、陰では言われてたんじゃない？私は全然気にしてなかったんだけど。
Yeah. What about in med school? Do you know if there are any differences that you've been taught based on like how you should practice based on your sex, or is that pretty gender neutral?
ね、どういうことだ
？I don't know, like if there's do they have any dress codes specific to women that they don't have for men, for example?
あるね。例えば、なんだろう。女の人は、どちらかというと男の方が厳しいかもしれない。なんでかというと、髭生やしちゃいけないんだよ。男の人は。
Oh, but I'm assuming if a woman could, then they couldn't, right?
そうだけど、髭生やす人はいないからね、女の人。
Well, in Japan, yeah.
アメリカでいいの？
I mean, people can grow smaller beards. I mean, obviously they don't have like as much testosterone, but it's definitely possible.
possible だよ。だけど、なんていうの、目に見えるさ、男のこういう、ね、マスタージュでもなんでも。
Well, Japanese people really, I mean, okay, this side note real quick. What happened to great Japanese beards? If you look like, you know what I'm saying, historically, all these samurai have these awesome beards, but all like the Japanese people I know, it's not that they have to, I mean, they do have to shave their beards. But even if they do grow their beards, they're these very small, patchy beards. Who are these, what happened to the lineage of great beards? Anyways, continue.
あれ月ひげかわかんないけど、まあいいや。
Yeah.
で、どちらかというと男の人の方が厳しい気はするかな。耳に髪の毛がかかっちゃいけないとか、あとは、前髪。
Hold up. Back it up. As in your hair?
男の人は耳に髪がかからないようにとか、前髪が目にかかっちゃいけないとか。
Oh, you mean like hair doesn't go down. Okay, never mind. I thought you meant like hair in their ear.
違う、それ。
Okay.
そんなの見ないけど。あとは、ロン毛はダメなのね、男の人は。
If you had hair, like, you know, people can grow hair and like longer hair in the ear. Would you have to cut it, do you think?
そう。それがなんか、病院に出てくときに、 みっともない格好をしちゃいけないから、そういうなんか決まりがあるのね。
Oh, and you can't dye your hair or have tattoos, right?
そうそう。まあ、タトゥーはもうタブー。
What about if you can't see it?
いや、まあ、バレないとは思うけど、見えるとこにあったらもう確実にダメ。
I wonder. I should have asked because I know some people going to like American med school. I wonder if that's the case for med school in the U.S. I'm not sure.
結構ね、
I wouldn't be surprised if tattoos are totally okay.
OK だアメリカの医療ドラマとか、グレイズ・アナトミーとか、あとなんだっけ忘れちゃったけど、そういうの見てて、タトゥーしてるお医者さんいたよ。
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know about dyed hair though.
もう、そうね、髪の毛を染めるのはもうダメですね。女の人はちょっと茶髪はまあ許されるっちゃ許されると思うんだけど、
I'm assuming that'll change within like a generation though, because not in Japan. Sorry, Japan. Maybe give it 400 years when they're extinct. But at least in the U.S., I'd be very surprised if it's like not okay to dye your hair as a physician, because like I think the only people who care about it, aside from like staunch conservatives, are like the elderly, and staunch conservatives and the elderly tend to overlap heavily. So. In my head, it just doesn't seem like it interfere with anything other than the perception of the society's perception on dyed hair, which is kind of the only reason I think it's banned in Japan.
そうね。なんか結構なんていうの？私これも大学の近くのレストランを経営してる人に聞いたんだけど、まあそこ結構学生とかお医者さんとかが行くレストランで聞いたのね。金髪のお医者さんに見られたらどう思うかっていうね、第一印象を聞いてみたの。そしたら、まあ腕が良ければいいけど、まあでもやっぱりいい気持ちはしないねっては言ってたから、まあやっぱり偏見っていうかまあなんていうの、金髪とまあ黒い髪だったら黒い髪のがいいとは言ってたね、その人は。
Yeah. By the way, is there any? I know it's pretty famous. People know that like there are a lot of hot springs that ban people based off their tattoos, but is it based off dyed hair? Is that a thing? Like you're not allowed to enter because your hair is dyed?
ヘアは全然大丈夫だけど、タトゥーが問題だね。タトゥーはもう今さ、もうなんていうのもう洋服のデザインみたいな感じじゃん。もうね、皮膚のデザインと洋服のデザイン、まあファッションみたいな感じじゃん。
Yeah.
アメリカだとね、まあ他の国もだけど、やっぱり日本だと結構なんていうの、まあヤクザとかそういう系の人がそういうタトゥーをしてることがまあ昔とかまあ今もよくあるから、あんまりいい気持ちはしないから、そういう温泉の施設は入っちゃいけませんよとか、まあ入るならテープするとかね、そういうのある。
Yeah. And do you wanna? There's two. Oh man, this topic's pretty large. So there's other two parts that we haven't been able to hit on. But do you want to hit the article or hit like this kind of differentiation here? Basically, I have a section about like the expected roles of women as they age, which is different in Japan. I mean, in the US, it is as well. And then an article. Maybe we'll talk about this article. And maybe you'll talk about the other section later. But this is a quick aside. Basically, there was an incident in 2021 where was it the head of? Do you know what specific board was this?
なんかオリンピックの
Oh yeah, the
東京オリ
Olympic
ンピッ
Committee.
クの
Yeah.
そうなんか会長みたいなのかな。
Or basically, they said that if women, what's it called? Why don't we have more women or 40% women or something in the board? And then he said, well, if we have too many women, they keep talking. And if you don't have rules, they'll just keep on talking. Basically just saying women talk too much, so we can't have them. And then there was a response piece in Forbes Japan that had some interesting insights. The first being that men on average actually talked more than women, and when it came to taking up time, and also the biggest differentiator between people speaking, or the length of their speaking, was actually based on their social status or position in the group or whatever, more so than their gender. Where the older or higher social status somebody had, the more they were likely to talk. So I find it interesting that this person's perspective or comment, which he apologized for because he was forced to, but whatever, was just completely backwards. But yeah, hopefully you guys find that interesting. There's definitely way more to talk about within this, but yeah, you've already been going on for quite a while. 戻りました。
Hi, we're back.
今回文句があります。
Oh, that's first time like in a while. Yeah.
そのポッドキャストを始めた時にいつも何でしたっけ、language rant とかあったんだけど、今回は language rant ではなく、実は3つのエピソードは I hate cars だった。覚えてますか？その I hate cars の
The third episode?
そう、3つ目のポッドキャストの。
Mm-hmm.
でも私が住んでる、今泊まってる日本の田舎に関しては多分アメリカよりやばい。その車の状況に関しては。
I don't think so. But I haven't seen the American car culture, so I'm not sure.
なぜそんなこと言ってるかというと、アメリカではもちろん車が多いんだけど、少なくとも多分 70% の場所では、には歩道がある。そのただの一般人が歩ける場所がある。でも、
pedestrians.
そう、pedestrians。でも、今私が泊まってる県に関しては、歩道が多分 98% の場合はない。
Well, there is.
で、あったとしても、その歩道は本当にこんな感じで、今、そのリスナーだったら見えないかもしれないけど、マジでなんか、多分、自分の腕幅というかな。
肩幅？
そう、この肩幅ぐらいの大きさだけ。
And it's, how do I say, a drain?
Drainage, sewers.
Yeah.
水道、なんでしたっけ？排水溝、そう。
I guess. I don't know how to call it, like,
本当の歩道じゃない。
そう。だから、it's basically, it's like walking on the drains?
Sewer drains.
Yeah.
それだけ。そればっかり。でも、そのアメリカと違って、この田舎の土地でも、なんていうか、店とかは全部近いので歩けるんだけど、歩道がないから、その車に気をつけないといけない。そのなんか腕を少しぐらい上げたら、車がなんか引かれちゃう可能性があるから、マジでなんかアメリカよりも危ない気がした。
Well, yeah, like the reason we have so many cars here is because it's countryside, so they don't have mean to go to supermarkets or like places.
いや、それも嘘だと思う。なぜかというと、その他の日本の田舎に関しては、私が行ったことある田舎と言えるかの。その、なんか電車だけではなく、その、多分私が今泊まってるところから、その3分の歩きで、スーパー、ハードウェアストア、八百屋さんでしたっけ？ grocery store？
スーパー、just スーパー。
スーパー。でもそれ全部ある。ラーメンとか、とんかつのレストランもある。つまり、歩いてるなら3分しかかからない。で、クリニックもクリニックはあるけど、これは特別な状況だと思う。つまり、その車なしで3分で歩けるから、自転車とかあったら1分で、もう、なんていうか、到着できる。
I guess, yeah, people are using more bicycles or walking, than Tokyo people.
いや、東京ではみんな歩く。
And I mean, like, people are using less motorcycles in Tokyo.
ほとんどの人は東京では 6% しかその車かバイク乗らない。その 94% は電車か自転車か歩いてる。
The thing is, those people are coming from different prefectures, so that's why they don't have bicycles or cars.
No, 自転車使う。自転車は
No.
東京でも自転車は何でしたっけ 12% だったと思う。で、その残ってる70何とか%ぐらいは電車かただ歩いてる。
Probably in Tokyo, owning cars really cost really expensive, so
どこでもそう。 その車を買うことによって、まあ今車持っていたら本当になんか3分の歩きでそのガスがかからない。もちろん。その使わなくていい。それでその車を駐車する場所も必要ない。それでまあ車があったらそのガスの料金とかその駐車場も払わないといけない。その前の月決め何でしたっけ ?6000 円ぐらいの駐車場があったんだけど、その車がないと生活が安くなる。でも私がなぜ持ってるかというと、みんなお年寄りだからまあお金があるってこと。それでお金を
And also they can't move.
いや動けると思うよ。その平均年齢は50歳、49歳ぐらい、日本の平均年齢。でも50歳とか60歳とか70歳でも結構自転車に乗れる人がたくさんいると思う。まあアメリカと比べて。でしょ？なんか今のなんか持ってください。他の自分が見てる60歳と70歳の人が。それとアメリカ人の60歳と70歳の人。
Yeah, I've never seen American.
死ぬから。
Okay. Okay, yeah, just, yeah, we have cars. Yep. Sorry.
多すぎる。怒ってる。これが日本に来た時にもう車うんざりだから見たくないと思ってたんだけど、こういうまあ車だらけの県に今泊まってるのでちょっと残念に思う。まあそれとマジでその実感したのはなんかまあみんなが年を取ってるってこと。私がもちろん外国人だけどそれだけではなく唯一の多分30歳以下の人。
Nah.
20
No.
まあ個人的にそう思ってる。ほとんどの人はなんか大学生じゃなかったら例えば子供をたまに見かける。
Yeah, there's elementary school. Yeah.
子供か大学生か50歳以上。それだけ。どう思う
？Well, yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah, especially it's not Tokyo, so young people tend to go to Tokyo, and then in countryside, older people remain. So.
実はすごく悲しい。まあその目的は悲しい映画を作るためのではなかったかもしれないけど、私が見たときにこれはめっちゃ悲しいと思った。その島のドキュメンタリー、その500人しか住んでない島に関するドキュメンタリーを3年前に見た。で、まあ500人しか住んでないってことは、その島の人はもうまあ私が今見てたら多分もう何でしたっけ優しい言い方破滅されたとか
破滅？
そう多分ほとんどの人例えばそのドキュメンタリーが撮影し始めた時に500人とかいたんだけど、そのドキュメンタリーの最後のところにこの映画に登場する人、その登場人物がなんかほとんどが亡くなったってことがお知らせされた。それでこれはでなんか一番悲しんでいた、見て悲しいと思ってたシーンがその学校の高校だったんだけど、その高校の中学校だったかな。でその中学校の中に普通の大きさの中学校を想像してください。で卒業式が行われた。でその卒業式は3人しかいませんでした。
Like if it's なんだろう。僻地って how do you say?
Remote place.
そう。Yeah, there are some schools that.
でその3人は別のなんていうか同じクラスじゃなかった。
Yeah. It's a different year, but like there are only 3 people. Yeah. That can happen. Yeah, in mostly remote.
Remote locations. めっちゃ悲しいと思ってた。
しょうがないよね。
しょうがないかな。まあ時間過ぎた。なんか泣きたぐらい。でもなんかドキュメンタリーの感じの雰囲気はなんていうかこの街は 希望があるかもしれないという展開で終わったんだけど、でもその希望がどこにもないと思ってた。でもまあ、ということは今思って、なんか今の止まってる件に関しては、そういう希望があるかどうかをちょっと思ってた。その、まあ。
People are dying and the city is dying.
そう。ちょっと悲しい。でも東京に行ったら多分、その真逆の印象に残るかもしれない。うん。まあ、それだけで。それで、最後に言いたいことは、今、まあ終わったんだけど、多分、考えてる。ただ、私の後の仕事を増やしたいか。じゃあ、増やす。その、ポッドキャストの宣伝を今作った。その、ポッドキャストの宣伝をなんかポスターの感じでできてるんだけど、今、聞いてる人見えないけど、その、YouTube の視聴者だったら見える。今。で、このポスターを多分日本のいろんな地域に、何でしたっけ春でしたっけ
I don't know if it's legal.
まあできるかどうか、そのできる場所に置くつもりなので、その lazyfluency のポスターを見たらコメントで言ってください。なんかポッドキャストのポスターを見て、このlazyfluency なんか YouTube とか Spotify を聞き始めたってこと知りたいから。じゃあ。And we're back with the final section.
Hi.
And if you made it to the final section, that means you should send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com or write an Apple Podcast review, or if you're Japanese,
Apple Podcast にレビュー、そして質問、感想などあれば、Eメールまで送ってください。
And this week, the first comment that inspired this episode had a first part that I thought actually made more sense to separate it. So the first topic is like, what is it like being a woman in Japan? And this second part, which actually was the initial first part of the comment, is kind of focusing on men and the difficulties that men can impose in society. And I decided to put the focus of the first talk mainly on the woman experience so that we could address issues that Oddity sees that men have, or I guess her PSA, and then give myself a chance to respond. So here's the comment from Oddity. I'm here to implore, men of the world, stop going about shirtless. Every morning on my way to work, I stumble into sweaty men jogging shirtless with nothing but these flimsy shorts, looking like they've just sprung out of a Hellenistic gymnasium and are ready to invade Sparta. Why do I have to be subjected to nipples this early in the morning? Not that there's anything wrong with nipples. I'm pro nipples, male or otherwise. Generally, though, I don't want to see any unless I've expressed an explicit desire to do so. And it's not the nudity that's problematic, but how it exemplifies the way men feel entitled in the public space and how they impose their physical presence in it. It's especially annoying because while this behavior is socially acceptable for men, for reasons of gender power dynamics, the female body and its nudity is considered problematic, shameful, and most definitely needs to be covered up. Shout out to what's going on in Iran. If I come off as nitpicky, let me further illustrate this point with a similar phenomenon, namely the way men sit in public transport. Usually they sprawl on the seat and spread their legs really wide, so if I'm sitting next to them, I have to squish myself and cling to the sides because they're in my personal space. And if I'm sitting across, their crotch is directly in my face, which is horribly uncomfortable and very aggressive. Thank you for your comment, or the full comment and the inspiration for the episode, Oddity. First, do you have any impressions, personal experiences with this? And then I'll have my response here.
まあ、多分アメリカの方が激しいんじゃない？日本だとね、上半身裸で走ったり、まあ歩いたりするのは結構ね、タブーだから、あんまり見ない。
Is it taboo or is it considered legal? Like public indecency?
イリーガルではないけどタブーなだけだと思う。ただ警察に絶対にあなたなんで上半身裸なんですかとか。
Wait, they will stop me? I mean, hypothetically. I'm just saying, I want to know if it's legal or not. That's all I'm saying.
マジでやめて、マジで多分ね。警察にね、職務質もされるから。
They probably already would, you know what I'm saying? I stick out so much. Yeah, so you've never had it. What about manspreading? These terms, the terms that she talked about are actually, so the first one is just being shirtless, but the next one is called manspreading.
足を広げて座ること
Yeah, it's like this.
まあそういう人いるよね。
On the train?
それなんか、なんだろう。体の作り的にはしょうがないっていう一面もあるのかなと思った。なんか男の人のがさ、足は長いじゃん。まあ、相対的に。だって身長が高いから。
Yeah.
で、あと骨盤がさ、男の人のが狭いからさ、なんか、足閉じれないんじゃないわかんないけど。
Well, here's what I'll say, which is expression that I think is helpful. I think I've mentioned this before, but it's do not attribute to malice, which what can be explained by stupidity. Or in this case, instead of stupidity, into, we'll say natural inclinations. So first thing, I guess I'll talk about the manspreading phenomenon. Although there are probably people who just want to assert their dominance or in some form of way, as a man, I will say it is very uncomfortable sitting with your legs pressed tight against each other because there is something that is in the way in between your legs. And if you sit with your legs squished, it is uncomfortable. You're like, oh, why can't you sit with them slightly opened? And the thing is, you have two positions. I mean, this is hard to do here. But if you have your legs together and you're leaning forward, which is normally what you're doing, your weight is going towards the center, making your legs squish together. So your knees are actually closer. Sorry, I was speaking away from the mic if that was a little low. They're actually leaning into each other. But the second you open it up and you've gone into a V angle, your legs want to push apart. Like that's gravity. We have gravity working here. Or you have to use muscles to keep them open in like a wider position. And I'm literally feeling right now, so I'm experimenting. So you see what I'm saying? So you try it. If you have your legs up like this, inwards, then they start tipping inwards, right? If your legs are closer inwards. But if you put your legs past a certain degree into a V, then they will just want to trend outwards until they hit like a really wide position. With this being said, obviously if you're taking up other people's space, I think you have to deal with it and you have to bring your legs in. But that's kind of where that natural inclination comes from, at least in my experience.
これでオリティは満足いただけたかな。男軍団による言い訳
Yeah, you can call this an excuse. I'm not excusing everybody, but I will say that we as a class or as a group are not in cahoots together to decide how we should sit. So if you notice that like men keep doing something over and over again, there's probably a what's it called, a subconscious reason for it, and this would my what's called 2 cents on that. With running shirtless, so as a runner, which I think I've mentioned that I'm a runner or have done many sports, but I ran in college. There are multiple reasons. I actually sometimes I run with my shirt off, sometimes I don't. It depends. But the primary benefit of running with your shirt off, and that's how I view it, is the benefits. I don't look at it as a way to bother other people. Is especially if you're running like if you do long distance, some people run multiple times a day, is it reduces your laundry incredibly. You basically just have short shorts, which are wicking. So they're like for water and other stuff. So they're basically made out of nylon or some fabric that you don't care to use multiple times or not deal with. And normally you only wash those like straight up like once a week. And so you use the same shorts over and over again. And then if you don't have a shirt, you don't have to worry about doing laundry with that. And so it's less about wanting to show people your nipples and more of a practical thing. And obviously, the hotter it gets, the more you just want to do that. And then some people also like getting complete tans. So instead of wearing a tank top, they'll wear no shirt just to have a consistent tan across their body, which women do as well, obviously, but they're not allowed to. Which is the thing. Don't hate the player, hate the game. So I'm saying like, I'm all about freeing the nipple here. And I'm saying just because men can free the nipples, let's not oppress the nipple in that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think you say it's not sexual, but I think to some degree there is some subconscious thing regarding whether it be women not being able to or men being able to that makes the nipple different from, for example, my elbow. I didn't hear anybody complaining about my elbows always being shown. I mean, there are places where people complain about that, but at least not not in America. And so I feel like it's all just societally based as what is considered okay or not. So, which is to say, given that running shirtless is considered generally okay for men, me specifically, I don't really give it any second thought. which might be like the dressing thing in Japan. Although you said it makes you uncomfortable, and Oddity saying it makes her uncomfortable. So I'm not saying that there aren't potentially oppressive forces at play here. But I will say is I hate having to do more laundry than I want to, and the wind feels nice. Do you have any thoughts?
まあ、スプレディングのやつに関しては、これもさ、なんか、女の人は足を閉じて座んないと行儀が良くないっていうのもまあ関係してるとは思うよね。
Oh yeah, probably. Yeah.
そう結構これもね、関係してるかな。
Oh, I think her direct question, at least that we haven't, I guess, addressed is maybe other ways that men are jerks that you can think of, maybe Japan specific ones. I can think of a few, which is the taking up the noise in a room, I would say, at least for older men, in my experience. Like Japanese men, it's like the constantly making noise. I don't know if that's a thing.
マジで、そうそう、図書館とかによくあるんだよ。なんか、
寒い。
そうそう、なんか寒い。
It's like constantly.
それはね、多分あれはね、もうしょうがないと思う。
No, but women don't. I don't notice them doing. I don't notice women going, 寒い。You know what I'm saying?
あれ、老化のせいだと思うけど、でも確かに女の人あんま知ってる人いないね。
It's like a expression of dominance.
なんで男の人ばっかなんだろうね。あれすっごいアノーイングなんだよね。こっちはさ、図書館でさ、頑張って本読んだりと勉強しようとしてんのにさ、なんかもうマジで5秒とか3秒に1回やってくんだよね、ああいう人。どうしたって感じで。
What about the other one I think in my head, which is the slurping while eating ramen? I don't imagine women doing it in my head. I just always imagine a guy. Do women also do the slurping?
まあ、する、
On average?
いや、する。
Okay, they do.
けど、レスラウドかな目に比べたら。
Yeah, I feel like there's some like a noise assertiveness going on in Japan.
みたいな。
Yeah. Do you have any other ideas of like subtle things that men are more likely to do that you just find really obnoxious?
男の人で。
What do you mean?
男の人でなんかアノーイングな行動
Yeah, that they do that you think that they're not aware of. For example, we had I wrote one down which is called mansplaining, which is like re-explaining something or something basically that woman already understands, or she maybe attempts to explain it and then gets cut off, or and then a guy explains it again, basically. And it was unnecessary to do so.
要するにみた
Yeah.
いなね。
You'd be like, what is it? I mean, trying to think of a situation. How do you make PB&J? And then you get bread, you put jelly, and then you put peanut butter. And then I'd go, okay, yeah, so what Aimi said is you take some bread, you get some jelly and peanut butter. Does that make sense, everyone? Or something like that. Yeah.
いや、言ってること同じやんってなる。
Yeah. Does that happen? Do you have any? It's called mansplaining.
mansplain って言うんだ。
Yeah, mansplaining.
explain と文字って。
Yeah.
まああるんじゃない？あるとは思うよ。
I'm asking you.
あるとは思うよ。
Okay. But no like specific memory or something comes up.
あるとは思う。
Okay. What about any other things? Let me think. I can think of one. But you don't have anything on the top of your head. You're like, this is something that men do all the time that comes off as something that women don't also have to do. I know there's seating. I wonder how that affects it. You know, like for businesses, there's specific places where like the owner and other stuff have to sit, and people have to sit away from that. I don't know if there's any expectation for where women should sit. Do you know? And like a table or something.
あれ上座とかのやつ。あれ女の人でも同じじゃないの？
What about getting drunk? It just came off the top of my head. But what if a woman gets drunk? Every time I see people drunk, they're mainly only men.
いや、同じじゃないけど、まあ女の人が。
If a woman was like plastered drunk on the street, I feel like that would be. I never saw that when I was in Tokyo. It was only old dudes. Have you seen like a woman passed out on on a train?
いるけど。
Okay.
いるけどレスかな。そもそもそういう時間帯にさ、電車乗らないからわかんないけど、まあ夜中とかだったらいるじゃん。
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to get an idea of the generalities because so you actually have less jerk points that you would be attributing to men. But I will say though is that men have in Japan gotten like a whole term coined for them, which was soushokudanshi, right? Which is basically vegetarian men, and that being like a big uprise. So basically more passive men in general. So maybe that has contributing to our lack of being able to find concrete things that are especially jerky. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed our response to your questions. Thank you so much. That bell means we've reached the end of today's episode. Thanks for joining us in another lazy conversation towards fluency. If you have any language-related questions and or just looking for general advice, send an email to lazyfluency@gmail.com and we might respond in the next episode. Also, make sure to check out our podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and more. We'd appreciate the support. This has been Joey.
Anayami.
Signing off. じゃあねー。